The butchers of the Savanna. Beneath the blazing sky of the savanna, silent vultures spread their wings wide, circling through the air like ghostly sentinels guarding the fragile boundary between life and death. They make no sound, show no emotion, only silently watch the final, fading movements of life as it withers below. With sharp eyes that can spot death from miles away and powerful wings that glide on rising thermals, vultures are the embodiment of death, but not its bringers. They are the final cleaners in the harsh cycle of the ecosystem, turning flesh into dust and returning purity to the grasslands. Without them, the savanna would be little more than a reeking graveyard, where rotting death spreads disease and silent devastation. On this unforgiving land, where the sun scorches, the winds push back, and the grass grows with the seasons, life still flourishes with fierce intensity. In the Serengeti, the paradise of grazers, over 1.5 million wildebeests, hundreds of thousands of zebras, Thompson's gazelles, and countless other hoofed creatures roam endlessly across the vast sea of grass. But to keep their numbers from exceeding nature's limits, Mother Nature carries out a cold and impartial selection each year. Only about 30% of young wildebeests survive their first year, and their enemies are not just lions or leopards, but also disease, drought, floods, and the merciless brutality of the environment itself. All creatures here are bound together by an invisible thread of fate. Grass, antelope, predators, and finally the scavengers, they form a perfect circle, where no link in the chain is unnecessary. Among them, the creatures tasked with handling the remains of life play an irreplaceable role. Like silent, tireless janitors of the natural world. As the rainy season ends, the savanna dries up and cracks, transforming into a parched, thirsty wasteland. In search of life, the herds of wildebeests begin their arduous migration northward. They cross the border between Tanzania and Kenya, braving the raging Mara River to reach the lush grasslands of the Maasai. This life or death journey sustains not only the grazers, but also the lions, crocodiles, hyenas, and the long-starving scavengers who have waited months for this feast. Among them, the hyena is a notorious opportunist, with jaws strong enough to crush elephant bones and a stomach capable of digesting every part of its prey. The hyena is both a skilled hunter and a master of the dead. However, they are not alone in this peculiar task. The lappet-faced vultures, Africa's largest and most powerful scavengers, boast massive beaks that can easily tear through the thick hides of carcasses, granting them access to the rich, fatty organs within. Their beaks are so powerful they can pierce even the toughest flesh, something smaller vultures simply cannot manage. Yet on the battlefield of the dead, no one holds absolute claim. Jackals are often the early arrivals, swift, bold, and unafraid to muscle in for a share, even among larger, more dangerous rivals. Even when a carcass has been picked clean to bare bone, The struggle for survival is far from over. Every creature, from bird to beast, from the smallest to the mightiest, must stay alert, stalk, and fight for every last scrap of meat. This is the savanna, a land of fierce life and ever-present death. Here, vultures, hyenas, jackals, antelopes, even lions, all take part in the same story, the never-ending cycle of life. Where death is not an end, but the beginning of something new. Under the searing, bone-dry heat of the Mara, when live prey grows scarce, even apex predators like lions must sometimes swallow their pride and turn to rotting carcasses just to stay alive. Amid the scorched fields, a lone vulture spots a carcass lying exposed under the blistering sun. Its dark wings glide silently, like a signal to the scavengers that death has come. Immediately, the hyena, cunning and ruthless, follows the flight path of the vultures, drawn to the deadly feast. During the plentiful rainy seasons, what remains of a carcass, skin, hooves, or brittle bones, is often left behind without a second thought. But now, with hunger and thirst driving all to desperation, even a single bone holds the weight of survival. Among the scavengers, hyenas reign supreme, with sharp intelligence, brute strength, and jaws of unmatched power. They quickly drive off weaker competitors like vultures and jackals to claim the choicest parts of the kill. Between vultures, jackals, and hyenas, there is no hatred, only a quiet, tense rivalry. It's a contest of timing, cunning, and strength. Whoever arrives first, thinks faster, or dominates harder takes the best share. They fight not out of hatred, but for survival, and once each has taken its share, a fleeting peace returns to the land. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the savanna, a herd of wildebeests begins to stir, edging closer to the Mara River, the harshest boundary in their great migration. Soft sounds rise from panicked footsteps, spreading like a tremor across the land, signaling what every predator has long awaited. The great migration is about to begin. Millions will cross the Mara River, facing danger head-on and leaving behind a trail of countless dead. Vultures begin to descend from the skies, picking their vantage points. The first wildebeests leap into the river like blazing fire, and the herd pours in after them, a flood of instinct and chaos. The river crossing erupts in chaos. Mud flies, and the water turns white with spray. Some stumble, others are injured, and a few are swept away by the fierce, unforgiving current. Beneath the waters of the Mara River, Nile crocodiles, prehistoric beasts, lie in wait. With unblinking eyes and bone-crushing jaws, they lie in silent anticipation, waiting an entire year for this brief window, a blood-soaked feast that lasts mere days. The Mara River becomes an arena of life and death. Wildebeests at the rear surge forward, while those at the front struggle to climb the slippery, mud-slicked banks. Rocks once thought solid have been trampled by hundreds of hooves, turning the ground unstable, ready to collapse at any moment. Exhausted and skeletal, some wildebeests fight to break free, driven by nothing but desperate will. Not all will reach the lush green pastures on the other side. The weak, the slow, and the unlucky will meet their end here. And it is the scavengers, vultures, hyenas, jackals, who once again fulfill their role, cleaning up the remains of the fallen. Even the carcasses carried downstream and washed ashore will be patiently cleaned by the scavengers, leaving behind no trace of decay, no echo of death. It is nature's cold, unyielding law, but it is also what keeps life on the savanna flowing. Uninterrupted, in death, new life is nourished. In despair, hope quietly begins again. Beneath the scorching sun of the African savanna, the zebras of the Serengeti quietly join the arduous migration, crossing parched lands in search of the lush green pastures to the north. Though their numbers are only around 300,000, far fewer than the vast herds of wildebeests, the zebras make up for it with greater organization and discipline. They move closely together in tight-knit groups, choose river crossing points wisely, and never lose sight of one another amid the chaos. Within the herd, family members are always given priority, especially the young. Zebra parents, driven by a fierce instinct to protect, never take their eyes off their offspring, not even for a moment, and are willing to risk their lives when danger strikes. But the savanna is never a land of certainty. Death lurks in every unexpected turn of fate. No matter how cautious they are, there will always be the unlucky ones, swept away by the river or collapsing on the slick, treacherous banks, and those fallen bodies become a gift to the vultures, nature's tireless cleaners. A lavish feast unfolds quickly by the riverside, where vultures scramble and clash, each vying for the softest cuts of flesh. However, with their relatively weak beaks, they lack the strength to tear through the thick hide of a carcass. But when a towering lappet-faced vulture arrives, the master of slicing open nature's armored dead, the feast quickly falls into order, and the banquet begins in earnest. Meanwhile, beneath the waters of the Mara River, the silent ruler approaches. The crocodile, with exceptional camouflage and a keen sense of smell, it has already detected the scent of blood from afar. More than just a skilled hunter, the crocodile is also a pragmatic scavenger. Its stomach, no larger than a basketball, holds only a limited amount of food, but it knows how to store leftovers, tucking them beneath large rocks for leaner days to come. September has arrived. Most of the wildebeest herds have crossed the river safely, but another massive wave is on its way. Thousands now crowd the riverbank, exhausted from the long journey. The tender grass has been trampled and depleted, and hunger has pushed the weakest into the depths of despair. A few plunge into the water, triggering a frenzy that sweeps through the entire herd. But this time, a fatal mistake is made. The opposite bank is not a grassy plain, but a sheer cliff face, impossible to climb. Still, hundreds surge forward, churning the river into chaos as bodies begin to rise, layer upon layer. Chaos reaches its peak. Wildebeests trample one another, screaming in a desperate struggle to survive. At last, a narrow escape route is found on the far bank, but the narrow path cannot hold back the flood of bodies. The great migration turns into a tragedy, as the very instinct to survive drives the herd into the vortex of death. Ironically, the clowns of the grasslands, naive, stubborn, and some of whom had crossed this very river the year before, can no longer remember where the safe path lies. This crossing may well be one of the most brutal mistakes they've ever made. And when peace finally returns, the water remains stained red. Scattered wildebeest bodies lie as silent proof of the price nature has claimed. Not far away, the hippos, the rightful lords of this stretch of river, look on in bewilderment at the scene of devastation. Their river, once a symbol of calm and stillness, has become a mass grave, thick with the stench of decay. Yet in nature's unyielding law, the sorrow of one species becomes the feast of another, and so the cycle continues. Unfeeling, brutal, yet governed by a profound order and the quiet logic of the universe. Just days ago, the vultures were fighting over scraps, crowding around shriveled carcasses under the relentless dry season sun. But now, before their eyes lies a banquet like no other. Rotting carcasses line the riverbanks, so many that each vulture has its own share, with no need to fight. In this fleeting abundance, the joy of one species mirrors the tragedy of countless others. At the heart of the savanna, hyenas move quietly, searching for those left behind. Wounded wildebeests, too weak to cross the river, await a slower, more deliberate death. People often brand hyenas with cruel labels: bloodthirsty scavengers, cowardly freeloaders, Yet such judgments obscure their vital role in the ecosystem. In truth, no other predator is as effective at cleansing and regulating herbivore populations as the hyena. They eliminate the old, the sick, the weak, those slowing down nature's biological rhythm, and in doing so, they help maintain balance, allowing life to move forward in a healthier, more sustainable way. What few people realize is that hyenas have an incredibly complex and highly developed social life. Their clans are structured as matriarchies, led by a dominant female. The members of the clan are usually sisters and their offspring, forming a tight-knit community with a clear hierarchy. During meals, the dominant female and higher-ranking individuals are given priority. They eat first and get the largest share. All of that order is maintained through body language, vocalizations, and unspoken rules ingrained deep in their instincts. A fully grown hyena can consume up to 1/3 of its body weight in a single meal. And if it's a hungry pack, nothing escapes their jaws. From flesh to bones to internal organs, everything is devoured, leaving behind only bits of hooves and useless horns. They are nature's perfect recyclers, turning death into life, and life into a new cycle for this unforgiving land. No longer able to wait in silent patience, the vultures finally descend, diving into the rotting carcass in a frenzy. Their goal is nothing but food, the one thing that drives hundreds of creatures to compete fiercely across this unforgiving savanna. Rue-Pauli vultures and African vultures, with their sharp, hooked beaks built for slicing through skin and their strong, rigid tongues made for tearing flesh, skillfully dissect the carcass. Once a piece of meat is swallowed, it almost vanishes instantly. Their digestion and feeding speed is astonishing, making them some of the most efficient biological cleanup machines in the ecosystem. Not only more efficient than hyenas or jackals, vultures also stand out for their ability to spot carcasses from dozens of kilometers away, thanks to their sharp eyesight and effortless soaring on thermal updrafts. They consume more meat than all other predators combined. But right in the midst of the frenzied feast, the sudden appearance of a lone male hyena, an outcast driven from his clan, disrupts the order. This lone wanderer doesn't hesitate to charge into the flock of vultures, ready to snatch a share of the meal with his claws and threatening growls. The vultures, guided by instinctive wisdom, choose to retreat and wait, picking at the scraps left behind rather than risk confronting a starving beast with dagger-like teeth. The hyena, panting heavily as it devours its prize, experiences a spike in body temperature after the scuffle. It quickly seeks out a cool stream to lower its heat and soothe its stomach, now twisting from the rotten meat. It's the survival instinct of a wild predator, honed through countless battles on the unforgiving grasslands. As for the wildebeest herd, most of them have successfully crossed the river, pouring into the Masai Mara plains, still dry, but at least richer in grass than the barren southern Serengeti. However, along the riverbanks, the rotting carcasses grow more putrid by the day, creating an ideal breeding ground for flies and disease. The vultures return to their familiar task, but this time, it's no longer a wild feast, but a brutal struggle for scraps. Each bird eyes the other's meal, ready to snatch it away the moment an opportunity arises. From the chaos, we begin to understand why the vulture's body is shaped so strangely. Long, powerful wings for soaring high for hours, a heavy, sturdy frame to anchor itself when it lands, a long, bare neck that can reach deep into carcasses without soiling its feathers with blood and organs, and a beak as tough as iron, made for slicing, tearing, and ripping open its prey. As the number of carcasses along the river begins to dwindle and food becomes scarce, fights among the vultures grow more frequent. Not every bird has the right to access a corpse. A simple yet brutal order is established: the stronger, bolder ones eat first. The weaker vultures are forced to wait in line, staring up in hopeless longing. Those that have gorged themselves lie motionless under the sun, unable to stand as their bellies swell like water drums. They wait, patient and silent, until their stomachs finish the work. Though they feast on rotting flesh, vultures are remarkably hygienic. To keep their wings odor-free and light for flight, they carefully clean off blood, grime, and parasites by sunbathing and meticulously preening with their nimble beaks. At other points along the river, where more carcasses have drifted ashore, crocodiles have also gathered. These prehistoric killing machines, with massive jaws and knife-like teeth, may not be able to chew, but they can tear through flesh with brutal efficiency and swallow large chunks whole. The task of digestion is handled by the crocodile's incredibly potent stomach acids. Thanks to this, crocodiles play a vital role in purifying the river, an essential link in the Mara ecosystem. In the distance, across the sparse shrubs of the parched plains, jackals move silently for miles, following the scent of decay and the signs of fallen prey. They are opportunistic predators, always lurking in the background, silent, never fighting for a share, yet somehow never left out. By the time they're just 3 months old, young jackals are already learning to eat solid food, and the burden of feeding them falls heavily on the mother's slender shoulders. She offers her pups the best of everything she can find. From small prey she manages to catch to the occasional carcass stumbled upon by chance. Even a single insect, a fallen berry, or a rotting, long-forgotten body becomes a precious gift to nourish her hungry young. With her sharp instincts, the mother jackal can detect a carcass feast in progress simply by watching the flight patterns of vultures circling high above. Following that signal, she quickly makes her way to where the vultures have gathered. On the fringes of the feast, Marabou storks, second-tier scavengers, quietly edge in, not as powerful as vultures, nor as aggressive as hyenas. The Marabou live off what's left behind, steering clear of conflict and yielding to the dominance of those who came before. At the top of the food chain, the lion remains the uncrowned king of the African savanna. With unmatched strength and virtually no natural enemies besides humans, they have held their reign for thousands of years. Yet even royalty is not immune to vulnerability. In times of hunger, a weary pride must sometimes humble itself to scavenge, making a nameless, abandoned carcass a precious meal in the fight for survival. But a lion's meal is rarely peaceful. Vultures circle overhead, and hyenas lurk in the shadows behind. Sometimes, the effort to defend a carcass is more exhausting than hunting live prey. And when it's no longer worth the trouble, the pride moves on, leaving the leftovers to those more patient. Scattered across the savanna, injured wildebeests lie in the aftermath of the chaotic migration, and when a carcass has rotted beyond the point of being worth fighting over, another cleaner takes over: the flies. The flies don't come to feed, they come to lay eggs. A rotting carcass is the perfect nursery. Tiny larvae, maggots, will quietly consume the body of the fallen, slowly and thoroughly, stopping only when nothing is left but bare white bones. On the Masai Mara plains, animals injured during the migration have little to no chance of survival. But time, wind, sun and rain will finish what's left, erasing all traces of the tragedy. The white bones dissolve into the earth, returning to the savanna a cold, silent cleanliness. Year after year, the cycle continues. The hunger of predators, the endless migrations, the bloody and tragic river crossings, death lurking at every turn, and the lavish feasts of scavengers. Day by day, nature keeps moving, beautiful and brutal, just as its laws dictate. Life and death, destruction and renewal, all are intertwined in an ancient, endless dance, where no creature can escape the game of fate.